should be live. Day 15, stream 15 of the, what is this plane doing? Of the war in Ukraine. Managed to sort out the map again, so we've got the upgraded map, the added functionality, and there must be an error with this transponder, the way it's being picked up or something. Welcome Chris, welcome Alex, Miss Samich, Fion, JJ, T Bland 72, Mina, Cesar, Katie, Ulrich, Pollock, Matthew, welcome everyone. Another day. Another day of the war in Ukraine. We had the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov meet the Ukrainian Foreign Minister in Turkey, both giving a press conference after. Chelsea Football Club, don't know what's going over there, has been sanctioned, requisitioned. Where is Chelsea Football Club? Here. Oh wow, that's cool. So pretty, something that's culturally quite important in the UK. A lot of top flight English football teams are owned by foreign owners. Chelsea owned by still owned by Roman Abramovich. Also, the member of the Saudi Arabian royal family owns Newcastle, and I can't remember who owns Man City actually. I think I may be wrong, but I think a Russian businessman also owns Everton. Now, I literally have no idea where Everton football stadium is. I don't know Liverpool that well at all. I have absolutely no idea. Right, what's this? Okay, here it is. It's astonishing how you have two massive football clubs so close to each other. It is actually a bit the same with Chelsea, because I have, keep going there. I have been to Chelsea Football Club and I've been to Fulham. It's Fulham Stadium and that's Chelsea's. Welcome Otto, welcome John. Matthew, who owns AFC Richmond? No idea. Welcome Lucid. Dante. Welcome Vlatka. Welcome Mary C. From Ireland. LH. Susie. Neil. Sean. Ash. 20. Claudia. Diana. L. Can't pronounce the name. Do apologise. Welcome everyone. Anyway, so I don't know why I keep going there. Culturally, a pretty significant moment in the UK, and I guess the most prominent example of something being called out as sports washing. I think the rationale was that Abramovich owns steel mills or is involved in steel production, which may be used in the manufacturing of Russian tanks. Dante, seriously, what do you think you're doing, mate? Ukraine Live? Guess this is your first stream here. Clue is in the title. Try the list view. Ah. Can't really process that. TB, anyone know if it's been confirmed that there's US and British aircraft carriers in Black Sea? I have no idea, I'm afraid. I have no idea. Dante's a veteran. Let us know about your service, Dante, and your thoughts about the war. You're welcome here. TB Land, there seems to be a lot more activity over the Black Sea last night. Yeah, we saw Forto 12 in the air. We saw a number of tankers. There are still tankers up in the air today. Don't think Forto 12 is up. Lisa, strange how we have a little problem with Newcastle and its Saudi owners. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of Chelsea supporters saying, "Hang on, what about Newcastle?" Which is that whataboutism? Mark Williams had a Stratotanker fly low over my house today in Suffolk. I checked on flight radar. No transponder. Okay, that's interesting. Let me know if you can see any that have transponders. They fly over Germany and Poland. Here's one that's come from this German base. Otto, the list shows what's on the current screen. You can sort and use a plane icon to find it. Okay. Can we sort by reg? Yes, we can. Okay. So this is a pretty cool pro feature, right? Because we can load loads of planes and we can see something which I didn't really... Okay, where's the show on map? This must just go to flight. Okay, fine. So... These are registrations. I want flight numbers, don't I? Bit confused by this. Doesn't always seem to be in order unless I'm being really stupid. Might be being stupid. Yeah, this is coming from this stream. That hopefully is not too distracting. I imagine it'll be a news reporter. Mark's also F-16. Yeah, let us know if you see an F-16. We saw one that was Viper 1. I'm not very good at navigating this, I have to say. So, for example, how do I find this flight then? I don't know how I find this flight. Yeah, the voice in the background is off the webcams. If you zoom in an area, it reduces list. Oh, okay, so it's not an infinite list. There we go. Okay, that's helpful then. That's helpful. Thanks for that. So we can see another one here. Heading back from Romania. RTB. There is some background noise, so let me know if it's irritating. See this one going back. Dirt Dude, do I get to talk now or silence yesterday? I don't know what happened yesterday, Dirt Dude. Sure, the mods will have given you chances. Filter by F16. I don't think there's any F16s there. Welcome back, Phage. I hope you're feeling better. I think you were unwell yesterday, if I remember. Rebel Grimsy, you've been had. This is simply disinformation being spread to create false flags by Russia. Think about where you're getting your data. Thanks, Otto. Beyond, Ukrainian presidential advisor just put out an interesting tweet regarding the negotiation ultimatums we're constantly hearing about. See if that comes up. A very interesting interview today with the Ukrainian president on Sky News in English language, so I didn't have to listen through a translator, where he essentially said he believes a no-fly zone will be implemented, but only after millions have died. The thing we spoke about no-fly zone a lot on this screen. The thing about no-fly zone is to enforce it, you would essentially need NATO troops on the ground manning anti-air systems. So the time to establish a no-fly zone, I think, has passed, in my opinion. Greensby is not fake news. Check out the video from Victoria Newland. I like how a lot of people just say, "Oh, Victoria Newland." But we talked about this a lot yesterday. Didn't try and tell you that Russia is draining the swamp. I know a lot of. It doesn't really. If you be more specific about what you mean. Welcome, Depot Club in Brazil. Hope all is well. BSF, don't they use planes no-fly zones? I believe they do to shoot down enemy aircraft, but you also enforce it with I can't remember if a no-fly zone was originally enforced over Syria, actually. I can't remember. TB Land agreed that should have already implemented no-fly zone. Welcome, Dylan. Alex, in addition to that, Russian SAM sites would also need to be taken out well in advance of any Allied jets. Yeah, so it's just it's interesting that the Ukrainians keep pressing it, because getting dragged directly into the conflict is a red line for NATO. NATO has basically said it will tolerate what's going on and doesn't see it as warranting their direct military involvement with offensive weapons. I think that's the issue over the planes. We had a poll yesterday about whether the planes would go in or not. Most people said no, actually, in the poll. My view was I thought they would, but don't think there's been any developments on that today. I think there was a joint press conference with the US Vice President and the Polish President, but I don't think that question was directly answered. Well, when I think the no-fly zone won't work. Libya had a no-fly zone, yeah. Thanks, JR, for that. We can track it. Let us know where it is, actually. T-Bilan, I think Putin's trying to bait NATO into World War II. Grimsby, how is it fake news when it's come from the US government? Oh man, this is what I talked about yesterday in terms of having to like go over things again. Well, when Russia have S-400s, and that's why I think an anti-fly zone won't work. Yeah, interesting that the S-400, which I think is a very highly regarded anti-air system, doesn't seem to be effective against the Turkish TB2 drones. DJ Cypher saying America may panic and do something extreme. Welcome, Ethan. Welcome, Luke. Welcome, Fire Smurf. Village no-fly zone wouldn't stop the shelling. That is true. That is true. It wouldn't. Chris, I have a feeling that a no-fly zone wouldn't work just because once it starts getting enforced, Putin will go nuclear. Dylan, I think the Ukrainians are pressing it so they can complain over it. Then NATO can be like, no, but we can do this, send us equipment. Yeah, Zelensky was very passionate in what he was saying today in terms of, you know, the West effectively isn't doing anything. Obviously, it's a bit of a language barrier, but you can see that it does appear to be. You can see why. If the Russians do establish air superiority, and I've no doubt that they have air superiority in certain areas where the Ukrainians don't have, you know, portable manpads, and even manpads aren't. Though I think a lot of the ones that have been provided can target aircraft. They're only aircraft at lower altitude. So the tide of the war may change if Russia can bring over, you know, fighter bombers with impunity. So you can see why it's important. Yeah, exactly, Cesar. Welcome, Al. DJ Cypher, both sides are lying, bruv. So if you accept that both sides are lying, which side do you think is worse? Pfizer's going to talk about the privatisation of space. John A, the West doesn't need to get directly involved. It's already winning with the sanctions and all the weapons being shipped to Europe. Do you think Ukraine? Who do you think is winning this war? DJ, this is set up so they can crash the markets and blame someone for it. Is that a new one, DJ? Normal Norman. Yeah, I understand the same Village BC. Welcome, Yolanda. Treegrin, any updates about the power plant? Do you mean Chernobyl? No, actually. Although the news I read at the time was that even the International Atomic Energy Association said that there's no danger with the spent fuel at Chernobyl because it is down the path of being decommissioned. There have been some updates on live UA map at this nuclear power plant. Apparently, Russia planting mines. Turn that down, so it's a bit loud. Sean, poll for length of time until this is over. Wow, that's okay. The only thing is, I can't. I don't think I can really in a polls. What does over mean? But I agree, it's a really interesting question. But I don't know if it can be captured so simply. Vice Smurth, Russia has not enough troops to hold the country. Jono, Ukraine is absolutely hammering Russia, burning wreckage everywhere. I would say, how much footage are you seeing coming out of Russia of Ukrainian casualties? And if the answer is you're not seeing a lot, is that because there's not media embedded with Russian troops? They have a lot. Is it because they have a lot better control over their information security and they're not taking photos and uploading them? Or is it because they're not inflicting so many casualties? I don't know, but just putting that out there. Define winning the war as well. Yeah, very good point, Katie, as well. Welcome, Philly from New York. Welcome, Samsung. Lewis, I love how people still try and blame NATO and the US for this. It's laughable. TB Land, as far as the US, it infuriates me that our government is using this horrible act against Ukrainian people to attempt to force us to buy electric vehicles. Enrique Speed, Russia has been advancing steadily every day, but propaganda works. Decpo Club saying they've lost all control or contact with Chernobyl. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the Chernobyl situation. I can only imagine that if it was bad, we would... it's not there, is it? We'd ironically hear more about it. This is Chernobyl. The interesting about Chernobyl is, and I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but I hadn't seen any movies or TV series about Chernobyl, not least apart from many documentaries a long time ago. I played the Stalker games on PC a long time ago, but if you ask me where Chernobyl was, like 2 months ago, or a month ago, or 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you really. It's like, okay, it's somewhere in Ukraine. And it would have felt like Chernobyl's in this very remote place. It probably takes a long time to get there. It's absolutely deserted. And none of that is true. There are lots of scientists on site managing the decommissioning. It's very close to the Belarusian border. And it's not this kind of dusty, mysterious relic emitting radiation generally. So it's interesting how at least my perception on that has changed. Hopefully I've become more educated on it. Then about winning, can't we send Charlie Sheen? I genuinely don't know, but did Charlie Sheen die? I've no idea. Josh, I feel Russia is like a dog that's locked its jaw in a bite. I can't imagine it will let go despite how much you do. I've heard more reports that Putin has fired more generals, and if he is firing generals, then question mark about how candid the replacements can be, or how honest they can be about objecting and stuff like that. Oh, and the last update on Chernobyl was that they lost communication with them. Okay. Village is because it's not a war, but a special military operation to welcoming arms. If you are a troll village, you're not a very convincing one. I have to be honest. And this is what I find a lot about the propaganda, that it doesn't seem to be particularly sophisticated. David, I call you David, and if you're David, Russia could have won in a day if they took out central government. We speculated that that might have been part of the reason for the incursion into central Kyiv on day 2 or night 2 of the war. But yeah, he's been out giving interviews. He's been prominent. We saw the video he did the other day where he was taking a selfie video at his office. Welcome, Mishara from Nigeria. Let us know what the feeling is in Nigeria. Oh, Charlie Sheen is still alive. Okay. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Fafnir. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch back up with the chat. Welcome, Gil, as well. Welcome, Nicholas. Yeah, I don't know if anyone saw the video of the tank regiment today. Again, I have flown drones in this part of the world, and when you get your drone high enough, you can't see it and you can't hear it. So, although it might seem weird that there's drones able to view, these attacks on armor columns, it shows you just how effective they are. And I'm sure those drones, a lot of them will just be completely off the shelf. Welcome, Fighter Smurf. Welcome, Phoenix Finds Fun from Boston. Okay, to the beginning of the chat. Welcome, Ratislav. Yeah, it says we saw the Antonov in the pictures. We speculated that it might have been, it might have not been here on the first day when the attacks were at this airport, but there's very clear photos that it has been destroyed. Oh, that video was satisfying. Does that make you a bad person? That's a very deep question, isn't it? I think it shows a level of desensitization. Mark D, definition of a war, state of armed conflict between different countries or different groups in the country. I am surprised that I'm not aware that this has been officially declared a war. Like the relevant paperwork has been signed, like it seemed to be in the old days. Yeah, thanks, Phage, for your detailed comments on privatization of space. Dirt Dude, have you people not heard Russians demand it's not a war? So what is it, Dirt Dude? MBR saying, good question, and I'm not convinced my answer is right. Seems very mature. Don't know what the question was. Josh, there seems to be a curve on how sophisticated the propaganda needs to be and how much your people already eat from your hand already. If they'll lap up what you give them, you don't need to be subtle. Yeah. We talked yesterday about some people who, if a spectrum that may exist amongst personalities is that some people may inherently be more, I don't want to know about it, I don't want to hear about it, I just want to get on with my day. So I'll just take it as gospel and I just want to get on with my day. I just don't want to think about questioning it. And people on the other side of the spectrum might be, I really want to question it, hang on, what are the reasons? Is there something else that could be going on here? So kind of how much cynicism do you have? And you can imagine that there's nothing wrong with being at either spectrum, but they're different. And obviously propaganda, I don't know what the word is, but like kind of like anti-truth propaganda is food for, or feeds that part of the mind that is curious about things. You don't use them about bombs if not a war. I draw the line much earlier, actually. Yeah, thanks, JJ. Welcome, Ray. Jedi, legal definition of war, open and declared conflict between the armed forces of two or more states or nations. But can it be declared unilaterally then? Have in previous wars both sides admitted they're at war? Like I understand North Korea and South Korea are still technically at war because there's no end to the war's been declared. There's only like a peace armistice. Nintense is on the spectrum. Tom, the first casualties of war's truth. Welcome Galactic North. Darren, anti-propaganda. Is there a fine line between that and conspiracy theorists? MBR, seriously, this has convinced me that propaganda is strong on both sides. It's rather scary. Dylan, disinformation. Propaganda is supposed to deliberately deceive. BSDF, why are we questioning the paperwork of the war? I don't know. I mean, the fact that there's a every word you kind of say is loaded, but the fact that there's a war seems to be in dispute. So it does seem to be important what it is officially declared as. I don't know. Welcome, Techno. DJ Norman says question everything. Now, this is my thing about the question everything, right? So, and again, I don't have the skill to really put my vague thoughts into coherent sentences, but I think there are people in chat who kind of understand. So this is my thought about this question everything. So some people say question everything. There must be two sides to every story. There's always two sides to every story. Don't believe everything you read. But if you believe that there are morals, and if you believe that some things are inherently good and some things are inherently bad, then there cannot always be two sides to every story. So shelling a hospital must be wrong if you believe in kind of morality. I don't think there'd be any morality that wouldn't be wrong. And so what we saw today from Lavrov is, that hospital had been emptied before, it was full of troops, there were no women and children and injured in it. But the thing is that the advancement of civilization is based on facts, right? So again, the one I use, the Earth being round as a commonly accepted fact is a fact that is built on, and we can launch rockets into orbit, because part of the long way down that chain, a part of the mathematics and physics of being able to put satellites into orbit is that the Earth is round. So, and there seems to be a pattern, and yeah, we're very lucky. This is a neutral space you can put your thoughts in, but there seems to be a pattern from Russia of question everything. So Ukraine says there's a war. Russia says no, there's a special military operation. There's no war. Ukraine says you invaded us. Today Lavrov says Russia never invaded Ukraine. The West says Russia shelled a children's hospital. Russia says no, all the children and people have been evacuated, civilians have been evacuated. And plenty of other things. And if you refuse to acknowledge any facts, then you almost are anti-progress in a way, because everything ends up in the mud. Villa says at the end of the day, might makes right and right doesn't matter. What an absolute void to have that point of view. What an absolute emptiness. Absolutely devoid of any kind of hope and optimism. Yeah, maybe it is nihilism. So I think if you believe in morals, if you believe in good and bad, then there are not always two sides to every story. And if you're comfortable with that, you can criticize yourself, you can criticize your context, you can say that, you know, it was wrong for the intelligence failures to have been a huge reason of why the West intervened in Iraq in the Second Gulf War. You can say that was wrong. And it's also wrong for Russia to invade Ukraine. Because you're comfortable of where these actions stand against morality. Village, I disagree. It's just reality. As long as we have the strength to enforce morality, great. If we don't, well, I feel sorry for you, Village BC. I feel sorry for you that you are, or the viewpoint that you present is a void of morality. So anyway, I can't really explain it, but if at every step of the way you question everything. So, for example, like I said, this light, if I say this light is blue and you say it's not, well, I don't know if it's blue, you know, we just maybe just perceive it in our eyes as blue, but there's nothing actually that's blue. Or you may have put a filter on that and actually you've changed it. If you constantly question everything, then we would never accept that's blue. And we would never kind of build on that. I don't know. So I feel sorry for you, Village BC. Or I feel sorry for that viewpoint. Nicholas, you need a foundational truth to work off, or everything is relative. I agree. And yeah, maybe nihilism is the kind of established kind of psyche that explains the position if you don't believe that to be true. Anthony, everyone's going to think that the news they like is right and that research is correct, but really we honestly never know. But I wouldn't believe too much news site, especially Russia. I agree, but it doesn't need to be so complicated. So a lot of things we've talked about on the stream over the last 15 days, NATO did expand eastwards. After the fall of the Soviet Union and the collapse of the Warsaw Pact, the Baltic states, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania became part of NATO. NATO expanded eastwards. There were discussions, or, you know, Ukraine joining NATO wasn't ruled out. So, yes, NATO did expand eastwards. Can anyone disagree with that? So, if we take that as a truth that NATO expanded eastwards, Putin, in his speech on the first day of the war, used as a justification for the special military operation the eastward expansion of NATO. Okay. Again, put in the chat if any of that isn't a truth. Putin's decision was to invade Ukraine. I gave other reasons as well, but is that justified? Welcome, Harry. But anyway, I'm not. I can't. I don't. I'm not really eloquent enough to um, explain that point of view. Technically, we like to look at values we believe in because it's comfortable. Sometimes that comfort can be dangerous. We need to learn to look objectively to get closer to truth, and it can help. I agree, but that objectivity, if you're talking about something being objective, not subjective, you need to have something that is foundational to that, and then assess it against those foundations, and say, well, those foundations are objective. If you limit it to your context, if you limit it to the Western context, what is acceptable, because most people in the stream will live in inverted commas the West, then that is subjective to a Western point of view. And something we've definitely tried to do in these streams is understand, well, hang on, what is objective? And separate to that, well, what is the perception of someone that lives in Russia? What is the perception of Russia when NATO expands eastwards? Michelle, we've watched so much on live camera; it's impossible to call this invasion false. But it doesn't stop the ability to do that. Doesn't stop Lavrov from saying, "Oh, the invasion's false." And so anyone can muddy waters on anything. Miss Sandwich, anyway, this argument is pointless. Do you want a US data policy to never give up being the biggest power on Earth? It's all about power. Rebel Line, no, the reason Ukraine isn't in NATO is because Russia objects to that notion of extreme bombing. I don't think NATO would want Ukraine as a member. Margaret, are there any flights over any sort of Ukraine? Not with transponders on, definitely not civilian flights. We did see a plane take off on like maybe day 4 of these streams out of Ukraine. That was very interesting. H34, it's not that everything is relative to these people. The problem is the rejection of only undesirable realities, i.e. denial. Welcome, Spuddy. I don't think centre of Ukraine is that important. I don't mean centre of Kyiv. Ray, corruption should never be a reason to invade a sovereign country. By your definition, and the US should be invaded. Thanks, Arpas. After Russia's reasons seem to shift with online propaganda. Welcome, Brian. Rand, do you think Russia is trying to bait civilian attacks with their English language propaganda to gain sympathy? I don't know. I did see that tweet. Maybe I can find it. Maybe I can find it. Bear with me. Okay, this tweet violated the Twitter rules. It might have been taken down. Yeah, I think that tweet was taken down. Let me see if I can find it. The tweet that they put up that was taken down. Bear with me. Okay, some of that was a bit more offensive actually. That was also taken down.
aramızda konuştuğumuz şey bu. Yani biz hep aynı şeyi söyledik. 5 kilometrelik bir 65 diyorlar da o mantıklı değil. Yani 2 tane asker var.
Anyway, I'm sure people saw the tweets. They've been removed.
Bir asker. O kadar yapar. Daha fazla yapmaz zaten. Biz bunu konuşurken hep aynı şeyi söyledik. Yani bence Ukrayna orayı vurmak istemiyor.
Techno, I guess we all have bias. The bias we're all born with, and the bias we are subjected to by the country we live in. I guess even by using ideals of humanity. Yeah, I mean, if we lived in North Korea, you know, we wouldn't. Our values would be different, I'd imagine. So yeah, 100%. You know, when we're born, we're not born with any culture. We're not born with any language. That all, you know, comes to us. I would say. Maybe I don't know if that's controversial actually. But yeah, 100%. We live in a context, and I think that's one of the things we've spoken about most in these streams is that trying to understand our context and the limitations of our context. You know, to what extent has the West done things that have provoked Russia that maybe we haven't thought about? NATO, you know, a lot of people wouldn't even know what NATO was a few years ago. It wasn't that relevant. But if you're Russia, NATO is very, very relevant. Forty, it's quite mind-boggling that former presidents of US, UK prime ministers are so silent on this escalation of words in the past. Seen a statement would immediately enlisted to help de-escalate. Welcome, Lee. Thanks, buddy. I got a lot of heat for that video, actually. It's genuinely not clickbait. Right, I think I found... This is the tweet that... So when it comes to fake news and everything, this is the tweet that the Russian embassy tweeted. And I think they later tweeted that this woman here is an actor wearing makeup. Thanks, Nicholas. Yeah, if you do enjoy the space, then please do feel free to gently tap that like button. Welcome to all 321 people watching. Easter, this is also confusing. So, what do people think about this tweet then? So this is from what Lavrov said this morning after the negotiations with the Ukrainian foreign minister. Miss Amish, these chats have really messed with my faith in humanity, and many countries' education systems, oh boy, the world's in trouble. Welcome, Brian. I think it's so easy to divide, isn't it? It's so easy to divide people. It's just so easy to divide people, which is, I think, a sad thing. Although perhaps a nihilist would say that that's just reality. Easter, first I was shocked, then I was skeptical, then angry, now I don't know. I don't want to do a poll on this, it's way too controversial. It's way too controversial. Oh.
orada çok fazla Rus yanlısı vardı. Burada da olabilir.
Okay, I'm doing upon it.
Yani ama burada 2014'ten bu tarafa yani 8 sene geçmiş. O zaman başlamıştı bu Ukrayna'nın gelişimi. Kavramı bayağı bir gelişmiş bu. Yani gelişmiş. 2014'te öncesinde bu olay olmuş olsaydı ha Rusya yani.
Just yes or no.
Ukrayna fark etmez. Biz zaten aynı.
Jill, they had to deny it, didn't they? They couldn't just say yes, we did it.
Şu anda o kadar olduğunu özellikle Kiev'de hiç olmadı. Yani biz Ukrayna'dayız burada.
Burada
Village, I wonder how Lavrov feels knowing he's a laughingstock with obvious lies.
halkın
You could say that every diplomat
ya da Rusya'nın o saldırılarını
is there to
yürüten bir aktör konumuna geldi yani.
advance, well, if you're a realist, advance their country's interests ahead of anyone else's. Josh, I believe we're born with traits that could be considered culture. We play, we protect our aim, we're social, we're hardwired to be human. There's a level of universal culture. You can see perhaps the way that, you know, children play with each other, no matter, you know, where their backgrounds, etc. Katie, I'm struggling tonight. This is way beyond my intelligence anyway, plus my ADD brain is brain emoji. See, Katie? Yeah, every stream is different, isn't it? So we've got 68 votes, 15% yes, 85% no. Again, I haven't put any spin or anything. I've just said, do you agree with it, yes or no? Welcome, Michelle from Washington. Susan, you'd be good at poker. Lewis, I'm starting to feel guilty that NATO haven't done more. Jeff, Russia's real mistake was thinking the Ukrainians would run or give up quickly. The size of country and numbers of insurgents means Russian victory will only come from scorched earth. We will see. We will see. It definitely feels at the moment there's a bit of a, you know, Russia aren't really trying to, you know, storm Kyiv, for example. Or maybe they're really trying and they keep getting beaten back. We just don't know. Sonia, without taking a side, I have to say that as a Canadian the past few months, I'm much more skeptical of mainstream news outlets and social media. The way our media have covered. So if you're skeptical of mainstream news outlets and social media, then what's left? Sean says answer C, not enough information given. That's fair. Welcome, Daniel. Welcome, David. So at the moment, it's 16% yes and 84% no. So the vote is what it is. The vote is what it is. Also, again, how are we, the public, supposed to really know the truth? I guess the poll just asked you what you believe. Ultimately, what do you believe? Do you believe this tweet or not? Dan's voting for C. I need to shout Dr. Norman, it's right in front of you. Alex, as with everything these days, I can't help but feel the truth is somewhere between the two sides that are being presented. Techno, I've gone away and had a little film. Makeup doesn't dry like that. I work in TV and film. The audio would seem real enough. Fake. I can see this on both sides. By the way, I can see this on both sides. I can see that if, you know, for example, if we were living in that Russian context, then, you know, we would be on edge on Ukraine, trying to make Russia look bad in every possible way, staging things, setting up things. So I can see it both ways, but I don't want to try and influence the vote or anything. Welcome, Dave. David doesn't believe anything for now. So there's a possibility you do agree with the tweet, David. Josh is torn on the tweet. Kim, just want to put it out there. If the war in Ukraine was fake news, I highly doubt the world, with the exception of Belarus and Russia, would be so up and down about it. Yeah, you know, maybe, you know, there are different viewpoints as well. Some people are inherently more optimistic and pessimistic. We know that, and maybe that translates into, you know, pessimism into nihilism. And if you're a nihilist, then you are not necessarily bound by kind of thinking there's fundamental right and wrong. In which case, there is two sides to everything, and you're not obsessing stuff. You're not assessing stuff against what's right and wrong. I don't know. Otter says, "Ha! Now you are questioning everything." No, I don't. I've said what I said, but I don't want to say too much while the poll is ongoing. 144 votes. Interesting that a lot of people watching don't want to vote, which is completely fair enough, and maybe indicates that is more on the, well, hang on, I don't know. So I'll take the non-votes as kind of don't knows, really. Welcome to TV. Stoner can't vote, I don't know. Chris, the real tragedy will be the second order effects of a doubling, if not more, food prices. Yeah, I think a lot of countries that rely on the, you know, wheat, grain exports, etc. Yeah, and it has a lot of leverage now in terms of saying, well, if Ukraine agrees to our demands, then we can end this war and production can start again. Smash Pumpkin, I haven't seen the tweet. It is on the screen. If you screen is of the resolution, you can read it. It might not be. Little Inkling, the last thing Ukraine would do with the world on their side is create a false flag and risk being exposed as behaving as low as Russia. They don't need to. See if I can find another tweet, actually. It's, I don't know. Depends if you view it as classic 1984 or not. Welcome, Ali. 13 months a member. Absolutely insane. Fair enough, Ali. What was that I just read?
Adam şöyle jiple savaşa gidiyor. Suriye'de. Yalan mı? O dağdan bu dağa, bu dağdan muhabbet yapmıyor. Ama savaş.
Right, let me get a another tweet. So
Sesin bir ara titrediğini
I don't
hissettirmiyor.
I don't want the context. Bear with me. So this is another tweet that was deleted.
Sabahleyin 8'de almadı, 9'da almadı, 5'te
Tenno, isn't it 1984? Might as well be at this stage. Just look, you got a live webcam of City right there. Joe, are Americans were involved in anything it's by interest or what was about oil as example? Ren, looks like Russia has finally managed to make people more skeptical. My guess is that they might win back momentum once they use chemical weapons and blame it. Josh, sides are like a pair of scales. Sure, you can have two sides, but one can simply outweigh the other, and there's no arguing that. But if you can deny something as a fact, then you can deny progress being made on that fact and adding facts to that fact. So I tried to make it bigger, but I unfortunately I can't.
Kiev'i de elimizden alabilirler demeye başladılar ve barikat kurma çalışmaları başladı. İşte yollar kapatılmaya başlandı. Giriş çıkışlarda güvenlik noktaları oluşturulmaya başlandı. Yani
So there we go. So the vote, 181 votes, it is 17% yes, agree with the Russian embassy tweet, and 83% no. That is what it is. Alex, whilst I'm skeptical, I don't really see the correlation between someone being an Instagram influencer meaning the event was staged. So does the fact that Twitter deleted these tweets mean that Twitter is essentially taken a position and Twitter is propaganda? Hang on. Techno, sadly, I view Twitter shouldn't have banned these. It's a bit like removing Russia Today and Sputnik, isn't it? But I don't know. Everyone views in different context. So unfortunately, I can't make it bigger. They won't go any bigger, I'm afraid. So the part of the context in the West, and particularly the UK, I think, around these sort of tweets and these sort of positions, and why I talk about surely there must be a right and a wrong, is that there was an incident in the United Kingdom a few years ago where, in fact, I want to get this up. Just bear with me.
Cumhurbaşkanı yardımcısı var. İşte bilmem parlamento meclisi başkanı var. Hemen karşı cevap veriyor. Mesela Rusya o konuda bilgi vermede, bilgi akışı sağlamada biraz daha yavaş. Yani mesela Ukrayna ordusunun kayıplarını bilmiyorum ben. Biliyor musunuz siz? Yani duydunuz mu hiç? Rusya Savunma Bakanlığı öyle gün gün paylaşım yapmıyor. Ukrayna ordusu mesela gün gün paylaşım yapıyor. Diyor ki 12 bin Rus askeri etkisiz hale
Right, so
getirildi. İşte
this one I can blow up.
100'den fazla
And
savaş
the reason why I
uçağı,
think
helikopter
this kind
toplandı,
of
imha edildi.
this
İşte
question
bilmem
everything
tank vuruldu
has a
vesaire vesaire.
specific context, perhaps in the United Kingdom, is that a few years ago there was this incident in the United Kingdom. Perhaps even the United Kingdom won't know about it, but essentially, a lady died in the UK uh, after essentially being kind of poisoned by a nerve agent. And it seems as though the nerve agent was left on the doorknob of a house where I think a former Russian spy lived with either his wife or his daughter, I can't remember. And actually, what happened is that for some reason, a kind of unrelated English woman had come into contact with that nerve agent and she had died. And it was a huge news story, and it was consistently rejected by the Russians. So this is Lavrov in, I guess, 2018, accused the UK of spreading propaganda. And I think where the Russian line eventually kind of consolidated was that there was a UK chemical facility somewhere nearby, I think Porton Down or something. And the state line, I think, became that it must have been something from this UK Porton Down facility, and the UK had really messed up and released something. It got even more kind of surreal, where CCTV tracked two Russians getting on a train to this area and then leaving just before the poison was kind of there. And I think they were interviewed on Russian state TV and said that they wanted to go to the area because they'd heard how nice the cathedral was or something. And I think to a lot of British people, and again, just speaking because that's the context and the context I understand, it seemed really unsophisticated the way that this was being refuted. So it seemed risible. It seemed laughable. Although very tragic, it seemed laughable that Russia would. So on one side you have Britain saying, okay, hang on, there was a nerve agent here left on the doorknob of this house. I think someone in chat said it was thrown away in a bin, and I think the lady was homeless. She was looking in the bin, and then she came into contact with it and she died. So that's one kind of story of events. And the Russian story of events was these two Russian guys were just there to visit the spire, had nothing to do with it. Don't know why it was on the doorknob of this ex-Russian agent, and it must have been a leak from this nearby chemical facility. So, and it just, again, one of these things that just became tolerated, and, you know, even after this, you know, Russia's still part of the international community and etc. You know, a bit like Crimea. And so I think the context of, in the West, of seeing these tweets, these images are fake, the Russian embassy in Lavrov says, because there were no civilians in this hospital. It was used by a neo-Nazi wing of the Ukrainian army. These images are fake because this lady is a Instagram influencer and she's wearing makeup and she was photographed by a famous photographer. The context is it echoes. Oh, these guys went to Salisbury to see the famous spire. They might have gone to this house, but they didn't know where it was. So that's the context. So I've spoken more than I normally speak in these streams, don't I? So there's a lot of diplomats were expelled and the usual kind of tit for tat. And another example, which I'm not going to put on screen here, but is what happened with MH17. And what happened with MH17 was I don't want to get it wrong, but essentially I think the Russian supported separatists initially denied it, but then audio was leaked of the realization that they had launched a rocket that had hit a civil airliner. So you get another kind of context of, and then it was denied and muddied, and so that is just the kind of series of contexts. Airman says there were 3 photos. Same lady beauty blogger on stairs, transferred by soldiers and stand with warm clothes. She wasn't homeless, but looking for bin things to recycle. Okay. Shows if someone should interview that woman to show the Russians they are lying. It's just, I don't know how to. It's kind of, we're trying to have this neutral space and trying to understand. Okay, well, take ourselves out of the context and think, well, hang on, is the Eastern expansion of NATO, is that in some way a legitimate provocation? Are there legitimate rights of independence in Donbass and Crimea being, wanting to be a Russian territory through a referendum? We really try and take ourselves out, but it's also hard to navigate. It's also hard to navigate a lot of these things. It may be impossible. So, just wanted to explain some of the context that these events are maybe seen in the West. We'll end the poll. 1/5 of people agree with the Russian tweet that the shelling of the children's hospital was fake, and 1 in 4 people think it wasn't fake, essentially. Yeah, so the Dutch Aviation Authority really went to town and essentially reconstructed everything. Like literally everything. They pieced everything together. They even traced the Buk missile system crossing the border, firing, and then going back over the border. But it's easy to debunk it and say, well, no, it had nothing to do with it. So next random. Again, I don't understand. I would really like to study. Unfortunately, I'm too old now to really study stuff, but not that old. But You're never too old to study, I guess. But I find I don't know. You do have to close your eyes a little bit. If you accept facts, there is an element where you have to close your eyes and say, fine, I accept that as a fact. You know, no one can see their own heart. No one can see their own lungs. But you have to kind of accept that I have a heart and I have lungs, even though I can't see them. And then you can think about, okay, well, I need to think about how I look after my heart and my lungs because I accept they are there. But if you question everything, you can't progress like that. I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, let's track a plane. What should we track, chat? It's not loading on them. Is flight radar having a little bit of a struggle here? What's going on with old flight radar? Can't find it. Maybe I've turned off planes or something. Oh, there we go. See this plane. Where is this plane going? Ministry for Emergency Situations has gone past Sochi. This is a very weird plane. It's number 5 on the old worldwide. Just kind of lurking on the Black Sea. It's my GP, yeah. 3080 is mismatched. 172 says lies on both sides. Thanks for the honest neutral commentary. Susan, good analogy with the heart, lungs. Yeah, but it's kind of... I don't know, I can't explain. I can't explain it. Right, he says chilling there. What's the... It's 34,000 altitude. Does anyone know what this plane is doing? T-Bland said Black Sea has had a lot of unusual activity in the last 24 hours. Okay. Ministry for Emergency Situations. You can see how big the no-fly, or the, it's not a no-fly zone, but this kind of enforced airspace is, even for Russian planes going over Russian territory. LH, I wonder who's in it. No idea. The tracking seems weird though. The tracking doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It would have made sense if it had landed at Sochi, but it hasn't. So... maybe coming back now? Intense, where's Russia's naval power at? It kind of, I guess it will be seen when they want to make their push for Odessa, I guess. Although they may decide to do it entirely by land. I've no idea whether a Turkish TB2 drone would in any way be effective against a vessel if the vessel's stationary. I have no idea about that. TB, I think there's a US aircraft. Yes, I think someone mentioned yesterday there might be a US aircraft carrier in the Black Sea, but I don't know for sure. I think we were told it wouldn't be a Nimitz class one. Inkling, why is there red in the border? I understand this is Transnistria, which is a kind of disputed region on the edge of Moldova that may actually have Russian military bases in it. Welcome, Venetus. Maybe fuel dump. I mean, this flight plan doesn't seem to make sense. Right? Because it's a plane, so it has to be going at velocity. Or maybe it's moving now, I don't know. Is it possible it might be heading towards Crimea? Is this a sort of Crimea flight plan? Yeah, almost there, Techno. Almost. Well, I think we understood. Yeah, I think Patriot missiles are being provided to Poland. I think Patriot missiles require active United States personnel support, so they won't be deployed in Ukraine. Yeah, so Moldova as a whole, well, Moldova has made an application to join the European Union, and this is a breakaway region that is, Russian supporting. Thanks, Jolanda. It's still sorting out what it's doing. It's number 5 worldwide. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this one climb up to number 1, actually. Keep an eye on the charts. The vertical speed seems a bit weird. It's meant to be going at 400 knots, ground speed. Mach 0.7, really? I think maybe it's easy to forget that Ukraine is a country of 44 million people, or perhaps was 44 million people, with quite a few nuclear power plants. I don't know where the others are, but I think maybe at least 6 nuclear power plants. That's more nuclear power plants than a lot of other countries. So, it's very, very advanced in terms of nuclear power energy generation. And perhaps advanced in other areas of science. Michael says 141 nations voted against Russia and no one in the Security Council voted for them. The counter side to that is that if you think of it in a population perspective, China abstained, India abstained, Russia voted against. Belarus voted against. North Korea voted against. They say a lot. You can tell a lot about someone by their friends. North Korea voted against, and Eritrea voted against. But with India and China abstaining, that is a lot of people. So yes, 141 nations, but a lot of those nations are very small nations. Not saying that's right or wrong or anything, but where is this plane going? It's now number 2 worldwide, chat. Should we get it on the old live? On the old 3D? Here we go. You are now number 2 worldwide. The Russia Ministry for Emergency Situations. Victor says India won't ever turn on Russia. I wouldn't be sure about that, to be honest. The more China allies itself with Russia, the increasingly difficult situation India is in, because territorially India is, has skirmishes with Chinese troops all the time. Kind of ironic to talk about a number of people in the context of a country where democracy doesn't exist. Well, India just held massive elections literally yesterday, or counting was yesterday. So you could say India is actually the biggest democracy in the world. Ukraine has 15 nuclear power plants. I don't know the exact number, but we know that Ukraine has nuclear power plants. So you'd also imagine it has lots of other things, including research facilities. But welcome, Mojo. Yeah, if you are enjoying the stream, do free to hit the like button. I can't see how many likes we have, so I'm in your hands. But if you like the space, then you can always. I don't know what the like record is on one of these streams. I have no idea. But we can try and aim for that and set one. Welcome, Dave, again. Ministry of Emergency Situations, directing activities aimed at eliminating the consequences of large-scale disasters, catastrophes, and other emergencies. Where is it going? Yep, the Indian news is always entertaining to watch. If you find this channel every day, these streams a bit too boring, then I can definitely recommend Indian news as a very strong alternative to that. Thanks, Fionn. Very nice. Oh, 15 reactors, but 5 power plants. Okay. It's funny when you look at these reactors. I remember the same at Fukushima. They look small, but they're actually huge. I don't know if anyone else thinks they look small because they're identical, but they're actually just so almost impossible. You can't perceive how big they are. Chuck, anyone find it odd that estimates of Ukraine military casualties aren't being discussed anywhere? I think the Russians have released Ukrainian casualty estimates, actually. But this is an example of information. You wouldn't expect Ukraine to release information that isn't favourable to itself. And you'd expect the numbers to be embellished in Ukraine's favour because it serves the purpose of demoralising the Russian army and also galvanising the Ukrainians. So it looks like it might be going to Sevastopol. Yeah, well, looks pretty obvious now, doesn't it? So forget the direction where it's going. This plane is, it seems, headed to Sevastopol. Let me get my bearings, actually. Don't know if that plane is pointing in the right direction. So I think it's actually heading over there. Stevie says, where are the Ukrainian prisoners of war? That's a good point. I think I have seen some videos of Ukrainian prisoners of war. Obviously, I've seen a lot more of Russian prisoners of war. Yeah, Republic TV is... I think you may watch Republic TV because it's in English language. So you can remember it's Indian, but it's English language, so it's playing to different audience. And there's quite an interesting history. It's basically one guy who runs it, who's a really argumentative guy that you will know. And there was a bit of a scandal where they were found to have been inflating their ratings, but it is entertaining. It is entertaining, but on the news entertainment spectrum, I think the Republic one is a little bit more on the entertainment side. Zek and Resh, I think the USA heads up, and I think it's pretty clear that the Ukrainians have been heavily trained and supported, and have the equipment, and that equipment is now being supplemented. Again, you could say that's another provocation, because Russia, I'm sure, will have seen the equipment coming in, the training, etc., and there may have been a kind of, I don't want to say paranoia, that's the wrong word, something more rational, logical than that, but a concern that, hang on, Ukraine is arming itself and becoming more sophisticated. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, something very weird about this flight, right? The GPS looks like it's still active. There is an airspeed. Slowing down a little bit. I don't know if there's a purported flight plan, which is why the plane is looking this way on flight radar. But seems pretty certain this is going to be flying to Sevastopol. It's coming from ADS, actually. Don't know if anyone on ADS has got a different viewpoint on this. And yeah, now you're right, now descending. I'm pretty sure we'll lose lock on it soon. Creative, I was watching Republic. Sometimes they sound like a mouthpiece of Russia, but overall they care about India. I feel like they're just, whatever's kind of controversial is good business for them. So imagine this stream, right? If I really cared about let's just say making money off this stream, if I had nuclear explosion in the background of the thumbnail, and fighter jets, and Chernobyl, nuclear war imminent, perhaps in like flaming capital letters, or I don't know, something like World War 3, and then on this stream, we didn't moderate it, so we if we didn't delete any messages that are hate, spam, threats, because there's always a lot of it, and I actively encouraged conflict, and I just, whatever is the most provocative point of view, I would just be shouting that, then I could get this stream to be having plus 1,000 viewers every night like that. But that's not really, there's no real integrity there, right? That's profiting off, I don't know. I can see why they do it, basically. I can really see why they do it. But I don't think it's important to them about getting to any truth or really discussing things in a calm and rational way. The more out of control it is, the more entertaining it is. Welcome, Meh. Good to have you. Gokhan says no war, yes love. I agree. I do really think that the Iron Curtain is really coming down in a way that is so severe, and I saw today that there's going to be possible trademark law differences in Russia, so they can open up McDonald's, etc. And then you can't undo these things. These things you can implement very quickly. You can implement sanctions in a day, but you can't undo them. So I feel like this is setting up the next decades of how the West and at least Russia interact. And I think it is going to be a lot more hostile. There is going to be a lot more, anti-Western, anti-Russian sentiment respectively built up. If you're going through school, you are going to be presented, the Western negative light, and probably vice versa. Russia is this country that invaded Ukraine. And you won't have these people that have visited the other country, and therefore... So I think that is a really tragic aspect, even outside the actual war in Ukraine, is that, the next age is going to be one that at least Russia is going to have this. It's going to be very divisive. And the question is, who really goes with Russia on this? If you take China as a very capital R realistic nation when it comes to international relations, then you believe that China will do what's right for China. China is not going to be a loyal to the death ally with Russia. China will do what's right for China, but if it's right at this moment to kind of readjust the global order of things, then it might take that opportunity. So I think that's a sad thing. David, your opinion, where does this end in terms of timescale and how? I honestly don't know, I'm afraid. The only thing I can say is I really don't think that the animosity, the sanctions, the division, the kind of parallel things we're going to get in Russia, they'll have to copy certain systems and machinery, and various parts of the economy that were integrated into Russia are now being removed. They'll have to develop their own versions of those, and that will make it harder for things to be integrated in the future or reintegrated. The question is whether the current Russian population, whether there's a significant and kind of powerful proportion of that who either have been to the West, perhaps on even holidays and stuff like that, have affinity with the West in terms of culture. Maybe they support, English football teams, or maybe they support American basketball teams or stuff like that. And whether that is enough, because I feel like that we're at a high point now of that affinity, and it's only going to go down. Yeah, so it looks like it's heading into Sevastopol, 17,000 feet. They've left the transponder on. And to just continue that point, I do feel like we'll look back and think there was such a missed opportunity. So, after the Second World War, the most tragic thing this planet has ever seen for humanity, so tragic that born out of it was stuff like the Council of Europe, which I understand Russia has pulled out of. So one of my predictions is that Russia is going to either pull out or be ejected from a lot of international institutions, which I think is going to be a very bad thing. Institutions like the Council of Europe, which is where the European Charter of Human Rights comes from. The United Nations, a international framework with actual legitimacy, because pretty much every nation is a member, based on the founding principles, including the sovereignty of nations. So we lived in an age where we had those frameworks, and then when the Soviet Union fell, and we for the first time lived in this age, for the first time on this planet, so not in terms of what was known at the time, but actually in the planet, we had a hegemony with one superpower that became the world's policeman, which was the United States. So after the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s, we had this opportunity where we had the frameworks, and there was no longer a Cold War or a hot global war, and there was an opportunity to perhaps, we had, I think, was it Treaty of Paris? European Union 1992? Either Treaty of Rome or Treaty of Paris. The greater integration in the European Union. A structure which was founded on the core basis of preventing war in Europe by interdepending France and Germany's economies. There was an opportunity there to stop war. War is not a civil war, but war between states. Surely. There was an opportunity, there was a window there to play things and stop war. I guess fully integrate Russia, perhaps Marshall Plan style, culturally. If you subscribe to the view that cultural integration makes it less likely for those two countries to war. But what we saw is there wasn't really a Marshall Plan. The Yeltsin years in Russia led to a lot of chaos, purported fairness into how previously nationalised assets were privatised, but ultimately seemed to, if you're in the right place at the right time, had the right connections, aka the oligarchs, they would fall into the oligarchs' hands. A lot of corruption. And also the United States taking its role as the world's policeman in actually being relatively interventionist. So, Bosnia. Not saying it's right or wrong, but invoking Article 5, September the 11th. Iraq, Libya, Syria. Now, Afghanistan aside, the extent to which any of those nations, even if you disagree with their leaders, even if you say their leaders were committing human rights atrocities, the extent to which those countries actually presented a threat to the United States territory is, I think, there's a spectrum of questionability. And definitely one of Putin's purported justifications is that, that was a failure of the international community. So sure, I feel like you're discounting the diplomacy efforts made in the 80s. There was obviously huge diplomacy in the 1980s, and with Gorbachev and Perestroika. And ultimately, Chernobyl was Chernobyl, Afghanistan, the collapsing Soviet economy, politically, moving towards communism to Perestroika. Brian says, but capitalism and Marxism wouldn't have mixed. But by the time the Soviet Union fell, they admit that the system had moved, and it wasn't even like a command economy. Well, definitely not a full Soviet Union. Soviet Union couldn't sustain. So I just don't know if we'll look back and say that it was a golden age for potentially harmonizing the world, and perhaps we kind of threw it away. I don't know. Or you say it's inevitable that, and you say, well, actually, we'll look in the future, and in the future there'll be African states saying, well, hang on, why are our borders why we weren't consulted on the borders being drawn up like this? So if you accept, humans as being inherently tribal, then any element, any kind of attempt to kind of constrain us. If you even like here, you think, hang on, let's just try this plane. Where is the airport as a festival? Captain, all I know is if we survive this, we need to remove nuclear weapons from this planet. I don't know. You could say that nuclear weapons are showing exactly what a good deterrent they are. If you don't have them, then you don't have that very good deterrent. Welcome, Batu. Nice, our first advertising in the channel. Actually, someone wanted to sponsor these streams with their own map. I haven't looked at it. So this is over Crimea now. Airport is on the southwest corner, so I'm struggling to kind of track where this plane is really going. Don't know if that's an airport there. Might be. Welcome, Michael Nickel. Michael Nickel is the highest tier member of this channel. So a huge support of the channel. I think mostly for the usual sim racing karting content. Welcome, Michael. Alex, if Ukraine had WMDs, do you think they'd be in this position now? I think they'd be much less likely to be in this position. Whether they would still ultimately be in it, I don't know. If Russia would still believe that they wouldn't be used. TB Land said if the airport's on the southwest corner, it's flying away from the airport. Is it actually... Where is... Ah. There, right? Aerodrome Sevastopol. Gosh, there's a huge tsunami there. So are these things the... I don't know. Maybe the plane is circling the rendering off. The rendering is definitely off because it's not pointing where it's going. But I don't think it can know where it's going. There's no set flight plan. It is now number one. It is Mr. Worldwide. Is that the airport there? I think that might be the airport there. So presumably it's going to have to make a turn. Jolly says, war is just another game tailor-made for the insane, but make a threat of their annihilation nobody wants to play. If that's the only thing that keeps the peace, then thank God for the bomb. It reads a bit like a poem. Fionn says there's another airport further inland, but it does look like it's going to be landing at this airport here. Might be wrong. Sam Miguel, welcome Sam Miguel. So according to Victor, Ukraine are invading themselves. So it's still at 3,000 feet, that's true. We're going to go to midnight again, by the way, everyone. So this is Crimea. 3,000 feet. Seafish? Seafight Smith? Sea Rebel? Isn't 400 knots fast for 3,000 feet? Yeah, that airspeed. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's different between ground speed and airspeed because the Mach number has gone down. I don't really know, to be honest. Dwight, what would world peace look like? You could ironically say the more peace you have between nations, the more human rights atrocities you might have in nations. Because nations are less, there's one less tool to kind of call nations to account. Or if your view is that a lot of wars are fought over resources, including wars in the Middle East, then maybe there would be less, less influence like that. Let's zoom this one out. It's a very interesting flight plan. So, I wonder if it is circling. Okay, so this line here seems a bit more accurate. I don't know. So I don't know if it's going to circle and come in like that. No way, Sean Michael. No worries. Interesting they kept their transponder on. Seems unusual, I don't know why. Jerry thinks it's a false transponder reading. I think I'd be surprised if this is false. Might be, yeah, reading in full speed here because I don't know what's going on, but this is like a more normal flight plan. Welcome, Michael. So yeah, we're going to run till midnight. I was saying yesterday I was getting a bit fatigued. Last night was the first night I felt a bit fatigued. And yeah, I don't know if we're going to do them every night. We've done them every night for 15 nights. And I feel like when we started the streams, we didn't know. There's a lot we didn't know about the situation. Why was there war in Ukraine? Why had Russia invaded? What were the reasons? What does this mean for the world? How does NATO Article 5 collective defence work? What's the role of the Security Council? What's the United Nations going to do? What does this mean for gas prices, etc.? Is this going to lead to World War III? How can this be de-escalated? What are the likely? So many questions, right? And I feel like now, 15 days in, we actually, in this space, we, are a lot more advanced in our understanding because we've had this space to hear so many different opinions about it. So in this space, we definitely know what the different viewpoints are. And everyone will have their own individual viewpoint, but I feel like we're all aware of what the different viewpoints are. So I feel like this community is in a different space. I'm in a different space. And it's definitely fatiguing for me to both kind of progress our understanding each stream, but then also have to explain things in for new viewers that come in, and so many different things. And I'm also finding it. So we came in with what's going on, what is this, what are the different view, was Russia provoked? What are their possible reasons for doing this? I'm finding it more difficult to kind of, where's this going? Where's this going around? To not try and cut through certain things. So I don't think I'm able to provide this space in the same way there was before. Because I'm finding out that I do believe some things are right and wrong, and I don't agree with disputing everything. I don't agree with disputing everything, because if your position is to dispute everything, in some way, I think you are anti-truth and you are anti-fact, and ultimately everything is disputable, and we all get lowered to well, what is real? I quite like the idea of, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I know I quite like the idea of thinking, okay, that is a fact, and what does that mean? And then what does that mean? Rather than not getting off the ground because everything is disputable. So yeah, I need to think about it, because it's every stream is different. Every stream is different, but I don't want to end up in a place where I feel like, rather than this being a space for people to say different opinions and we just chat about stuff, and it's kind of, people say, well, I saw this, what about this, what does this mean, what do you think about this, and we all just chat about it and I read out comments and we think about it, to becoming more that, well, actually this is what I think. Because the more I've been streaming, the more I've been reading and watching, the more that I have feelings and thoughts. And this should not be a place where it's rather than me just reading out the room essentially and putting up polls, etc. It's more saying, well, actually, I don't agree with that. And it definitely wasn't like the beginning, but I think the last 2 nights has become more like that. Just take a note off, mate. If you're feeling that you've pushed yourself too far, not if you come back fresher and better than if you pushed yourself and got fatigued by it. Appreciate that. And in a way that, where is this plane going? Is there another airport? Oh, there's another airport here. It's going here. In a way that makes me sad, because I feel like this place has been a place where no one speaks into an echo chamber. So if people have certain views, there are streams you can go onto and just shout your view to other people that are shouting it, and everyone's shouting the same view. Or you can go in and put that view and you'll be immediately banned. And here we have some fairly sensible rules, I think, and people can say that. But ultimately, and I've never wanted the stream to be a place where it's covered kind of the unavoidable but grisly aspects of war on screen, and we've done 15 days and that hasn't happened, which has been fantastic. And the other thing is that this channel is quite a big sim racing channel, and one of the biggest YouTube sim racers in the UK. As strange as that sounds. But I do feel very proud about whatever happens. We did 15 nights in a row. Ukraine was invaded, it was shocking. I spoke to my mods and said, you know what, I really feel like I should do a stream on this. I don't know how it's going to be, but if everyone casts their mind back to the first day of the war, it's just so shocking. What does this mean? People were afraid. People were confused. And I said to mods, I really feel like I should do this. And most of my mods said, we're absolutely behind you. This is a great idea. Some of my mods said, I disagree with you. I don't think you should do this. So again, it's good to have different sides there, hear everything, and that makes me appreciate, okay, some people are really not going to like this. And so yeah, for the first 2 weeks of the war, every day we streamed. Nights 2 and 3 and 4, I think we streamed through till dawn. So I would just be streaming now until the sun comes up. No breaks. And I'm very proud of that. We definitely are in a bubble. There's 350 people watching the stream that we are interested about these events. We're interested about international relations and what it means, and a lot of people are not, and that's fine. That's just different personalities. But we will always look back and remember, yeah, we were involved in this war. We were ahead of the game in terms of the effects of it. We were really thinking about the effects of it before pretty much anywhere else, because there's nowhere else where people will be able to get this sort of discussion. Yes, I'm not going to stop, but I do think it's not going to be daily. I might actually be out of the country next weekend. I'm not. If I am, I won't be too far away from Ukraine. I'm going to be pretty close to Ukraine, this part of the world, which will be interesting. So the short answer is, might not be a stream every night at 10 p.m. That's basically the short answer. Thanks, Brian. So I don't understand that comment. Yeah, it's landing here, isn't it? So we can get in the old 3D. There we go. So they have. Oh, there's a big cliff. No! Stop! Oh no! Disaster. I mean, they really should not have built this runway here. They were warned. But, you know, we're going to build it anyway. We're told to build it. So, yeah, midnight now. I'm very proud of what we've done. A little bit emotional, actually. You know, there's been a lot of videos on my racing stuff. People saying, why are you doing this? You're not a news channel, blah, blah, blah. And I'm very proud that we did do it. And we will continue to stream about Ukraine specifically, but I don't think it's going to be every night. So it might be tomorrow night. It might not be. There's going to be a factor in terms of how I feel. And maybe I'll feel great tomorrow and you'll be like, yeah, okay, 10 o'clock, let's do it. Or maybe I'll feel like, actually, you know what, I want to just play Gran Turismo 7 tonight. I want to stream Gran Turismo 7. And I'm going to take that into account. Look at this plane in Google Maps. Fighter jets here. Yeah, I can see. But yep, that's going to be it for tonight. We've seen this plane land at just off Sevastopol in Crimea. #1 flight worldwide. So good support whoever saw that. And yeah, day 15 of the war, and I think it's going to be a long one. It's kind of hard to I feel like I do need a bit of time away to allow my thoughts to compress, to be honest, because every day it's talking about the same things every day, and my thoughts aren't compressing. So that's why another reason I think I just might need you know, an evening off here or there, just let my thoughts compress. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We're going to go to our members page. And yeah, thanks so much for joining the stream. A lot more sim racing coming on the channel this weekend. So bear in mind, if you do subscribe, you'll see that. But thank you so much, everyone. Chicken, Pollock, Al, Sonia, TB Land, Cheech, Dylan, Alex, Ditte, Victor, Nicholas, Michael, Captain, Brian, Adam, Stevie, Gokhan, Gil, Brigitte, Mojo, Mark. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And I'll see you all next time.
There was a wild ride, I know at the start you were curious, but my goodness, that was fast and furious. All the intensity we had, we've come to the end, now that's too bad. But the energy threw books off the shelf, and we hope you all enjoyed yourselves. Enjoy yourselves. We will go all the way. It's not about the trend. Keep going now. Keep going till we reach the end. Till we reach the end. If you had a good time being part of this journey, and the thrill is now making you thirsty, if you wanna keep seeing the action, then just drop us a like so you can come back for more. If you're new here, we welcome you with a smile. If you like what you saw, just hit subscribe. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in to see a Q-Red plot. Join us for the next part. Hope to see you again soon.